Good evening, everyone. Welcome to week 8 of the Sustainable Small Farming and Ranching Whole Farm Planning class. This is our last week, and we're going to be talking about equipment, facilities for small-scale production. Next slide, Cinda. So the tips for tonight: please close all the other programs running on your computer. Check your sound. So if you're running into problems, please go ahead and switch to the telephone. And if you'll mute your computer sound when using the phone, that will be best for your listening. You can type your questions for speakers into the question box during the talk, and it's really helpful if you do that so that we have them all together for our question and answer period. You can also type questions in during the Q&A period, but it's helpful to have them beforehand. We have 3 speakers today. Brad Jekyll is with the WSU Organic Farm, and he's going to talk about equipment and facilities for small-scale crop production. Jen Elliott with Palouse Prairie Farms in Troy, Idaho is going to talk about a little bit larger small-scale production, but looking at pasture renovation and hay. And Melissa Lyons with Skylines Farm is going to talk about equipment and facilities for livestock production. Cinda and I are going to be in the background facilitating the webinar. So we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Brad. Thank you, Brad.
Okay, thanks Colette for the introduction, and I'm going to go through a series of slides here of pictures on equipment that we use at the WSU Organic Farm. We have currently a 4-acre farm located at WSU in Pullman, so this first slide's just kind of an overview shot of that. We specialize in vegetables primarily, but we also grow a little bit of small fruit. We do flowers and herbs and a little bit of tree fruit. So we're located inside a larger orchard that the university runs. We have a really nice location up on top of a hill with good southern exposure, so we're lucky to have a really nice spot to be able to grow vegetables on the Palouse. Just having a good location really, I think, makes everything else start to fall into place, and kind of learning what your property can do regarding microclimates, figuring out which way the wind's coming from, where your sun exposure is. These are all really important things to factor into facilities and equipment. So we don't have a whole lot of facilities at the farm. You can see in this picture there are some hoop house structures, and so that's kind of our main facilities that we are actually using to grow crops year-round in. We've got some other small buildings I'll show you, but the hoop houses are really key. We use them for everything from we'll run animals through there, we'll store equipment in there, we'll grow crops in there, so we'll get out of there in the bad weather if we need to get a break from the rain or the wind. So they're a really nice, simple structure that can do a lot for you. So we'll talk a lot about that. I'll talk a little bit about irrigation. I don't have great slides on that, but I'll try to squeeze that in when we can. We use a mixture of drip tape and micro sprinklers. So just even in this slide here, in the foreground, you can see there's some direct seeded crops. There's one kind of newly planted bed. Then to the right is some salad mix, and you can see some really short stands standing between that lettuce bed and a covered bed. And those are some micro sprinklers that we'll use either to germinate direct seeded crops. We will use those in our fruit trees. They're really nice. You can move them around as needed. So we use a mix of those and drip tape for our row crops. So okay, we'll keep going down the list here. All right, so we're going to start with hoop house. Siting and construction of these is really kind of the first thing to talk about. We've got 3 hoop houses at the organic farm right now, and this first group of pictures is on our big one. This is the 3rd one we built. It's 96 feet by 26 feet wide, and our other 2 houses are 20 by 48 feet. So there's a lot of variety in hoop houses out on the market right now. There's been a lot of research done in hoop houses. There's a lot of companies that offer them. NRCS has had great programs to help growers get into funding hoop houses. So I think it's been on growers' radar for a while now, and so it's something that we really enjoy using at the organic farm. And we build all of our own hoop houses, and they come either as kind of kits where you'll purchase a whole house and have that shipped to you in parts, and you just basically have to assemble it. That's probably the easiest way to do that. You can even find construction consultants that'll build them for you if you don't think you have the construction know-how to put them together. And then you can even kind of go with a hybrid model where you can order exactly the components that you want from companies, and you can custom build your houses to fit your location. And that's more the style that I like. I'll try to find a frame that I like that fits a location that I want to put one on, and then I'll often buy individual components to do the end walls, say, or the internal framing, and then I'll even buy some of the lumber and parts locally. So I'm trying to reduce the amount of money that I spend on shipping, because that's going to be an expensive part of it. The frame really does cost the most. So this example, you can see these, the hoops are what we call the individual members that span what will become the house, and those are all in our farm steel tubes, and they're heavy. Steel's gotten a lot more expensive, so what you're paying for hoop houses today, most of that expense is going for the steel framing. You can see down below the ladder there's some horizontal members. That's a composite recycled material, like a Trex decking. It's not lumber, but it's something that we were able to purchase locally, and I really, if you can afford the expense of having that sort of plastic composite lumber, it's a great product to use on hoop houses. These buildings are going to experience a lot of moisture, a lot of temperature changes, a lot of sun, and all those factors really contribute to using conventional lumber degrading quickly. So that's something to keep in mind when you're building and you have some options. So here's a shot of the end wall, and I like to build my end walls custom. You can see now that, again, this is the same house we were just looking at a second ago, but it's built on a slope. So when you're choosing your site, you need to make some decisions whether, if you have a flat location, that's ideal. If you don't, here on the Palouse, we have very little flat ground, so you need to decide if you're going to level that site or build on grade. And I tend to build on grade here, so I'm not disturbing my soil, which is going to lead to compaction problems and just moving the topsoil around. I try to avoid doing that when I can. So the drawback of doing that is that my end walls tend to be a little funny looking because they're built on a slope. But I do it custom, so I've bought commercial lumber here to frame out the end wall, and I've made that opening large enough to drive a small tractor into, so I can do the dirt work inside that house with a tractor if I need to, but also a small rototiller. So I've sized that specifically for my own equipment, and that's the nice thing about doing your end walls custom rather than doing a kit end wall. Okay, so next thing is plastic. Now on that last slide, you can see the end walls were the first thing to receive plastic, and that's the way I like to do it. Some people will go top first and then end walls, but I like getting those end walls on first, so once I go to make the move to put the big sheet on, then I get that on and everything is basically complete. So this is the most exciting part of putting a hoop house up. Putting on a big continuous sheet of plastic is a little nerve-wracking the first time. So you want to have a good group of people to help you do this. More hands, the better. You want to pick a wind-free, sunny day if you can to keep this thing under control. If you have wind come up, it's going to act like a gigantic kite, and you would be smart to wait until a calmer day. You want to do it on a sunny day because you want that plastic to be warm. When you pull it over your house, you want to stretch that pretty tight, not super tight, but it's going to stretch a little bit more on a hot day, and you'll see that that will serve you well in the wintertime. In colder conditions, that plastic's going to contract and stretch real tight. So even if you have some sag in the summer, that's okay because it's going to stretch nice and tight in the winter. Okay, and then I'm going to show you some shots of some details on the framing. This is a picture of one of our smaller houses. Again, this is a 20-foot by 48-foot house, so really nice size. This is a great size for new growers to get into. It was the first one that we built. And again, the end wall, so we're just inside the end wall looking at the corner, and you can see we again did custom end wall, a custom door, and this one's not large enough to get a tractor into, but it's large enough to build 2 double doors at either end. So I do that for ventilation and for getting equipment into. So you want to have those doors sized so you can get good airflow in the summer. Now my houses are all non-electric, so I have no input on heat, electricity, or lighting for these houses. So I have to rely on natural ventilation in the summer, and that's critical. So sizing those doors so you get good ventilation is really important, and I'll show you a picture here in a second. The sidewalls all roll up on these houses, and that really provides additional ventilation, which you're going to need in the summertime. Okay, one more thing on these end walls. You can see there's cross bracing. These diagonal braces at the end provide a lot of side-to-side stability in the house. The posts that go into the ground on this house are set in concrete. So another decision you got to make at the beginning of your project is whether you want to put those posts in with concrete or not. And you can easily pound those into native soil without concrete. But if you're concerned about wind and snow load, you can gain a lot of stability by digging those posts out and putting concrete in to make them stronger. I'm experimenting now with houses here on the Palouse without concrete. It's just less expensive. You have some flexibility in being able to move that house down the road if you decide you don't want it there. But if you put them in concrete, you're not going to have that option. You're going to have a stronger house, but a little less flexibility down the road.